Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, another angle that I really like from Islam, because as I was listening to the moron Tommy Robinson in one of his recent interviews, because it was put into my feed, he was saying, things that Islam treats women poorly and they're not free. And as you know, I have created countless videos and tons of blog posts refuting a lot of the values of the secular liberal atheists. And I thought I would bring up some of my favorite hadiths, okay? And volume 1 of Riyadh Salihin, there's 2 hadiths here that I want to read for you on husband's rights. Let's begin. Bismillah. Abu Ali Talq bin Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, reported, Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, when a man calls his wife to satisfy his desire, she must go to him, even if she is occupied with the oven. At-Tirmidhi and An-Nasai. The next one, 285. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if I were to order anyone to prostrate himself before another, I would have ordered a woman to prostrate herself before her husband. At-Tirmidhi. So if you look at how Islam really helps women to realize that they should be quite grateful to their husbands and to the patriarchal system that values them. Because if you become rebellious, like a lot of occultic women, when I listen to their podcasts, you need to know what they're saying. Not everyone should do that, but I like to know what the enemy is whispering, what their strategies are. And they often say, cut them off in the bedroom. And you would be quite surprised how many men, their brain starts to buckle once they don't get intimacy. They really do start to become whimpery, withered, starved, and they don't have the heart to cheat. Good for them, because cheating is haram. But they are being abused, neglected. And when you see how easy it is for men to commit adultery now, more than ever in history, I believe, the vast amount of apps that can connect you instantaneously, just type something in on Google, there's websites, endless free content, you name it, there's just no way around it. There's tons of ways for men to get cheap and easy intimacy, or just plain get addicted to their hand. And Islam puts the balance, because it reminds us women about the importance of how we use our bodies and our responsibilities as wives. Now, I have mentioned in the past that when you have a little tot, like, when the child isn't sleeping through the night, mothers become sleep deprived. And when you're sleep deprived, you often can feel like you're hallucinating, extremely depressed. You may get angry more often. You don't feel very good because you're not able to shower on a whim, and you hear crying a lot, and it's a messy job. Getting burped up on, peed on, accidents happen, cleaning up messes. So the stress really ruins a woman's libido. But I would argue after that postpartum depression phase, child's 1 year old, sleeping through the night, things are getting smoother, you have a lot more ability to control your mood than when you're extremely sleep deprived. Okay. So, to prostrate yourself to your husband, now we're not supposed to do that, okay? But the gist, if you look at that, is how grateful you should be. And when you're pregnant, I want you to imagine society without electricity, without daddy government, without indoor plumbing, without supermarkets with items from across the world. Imagine how vulnerable you really are. That is how we will always be. We will always be that vulnerable. Society and peace and stable living, civilization, is temporary. Earth is filled with countless ruins. Detroit has cities run down. There's abandoned homes. Things change. Economies fluctuate. And governments rise and fall. New regimes come in. New presidents come in. Inflation. It's always shifting. You cannot control it. And being pregnant and then your husband going out, bringing home food. Imagine how difficult it is to hunt. Whether you're in sub-Saharan Africa, the jungles of Vietnam, the deserts of Arabia, the forests of Alaska, getting an elk, that is a difficult task. Quite difficult. And you were able to get meat to survive. The amount of work that men do for women because they're beautiful and they want to have intimacy, it is remarkable because it's a character trait in them that's inseparable. Okay, let me put it this way. A gay man is not going to simp for a woman because he likes men. And a lesbian has very masculine, some of them, very masculine features. They still aren't going to grovel at a woman's heels. Even the most butch. It's not really their thing. A woman who's heterosexual only has that angle on men because of her temporary beauty. Beauty and what's between their legs is something that sustains them far more than their personality or their own personal wealth. It's fascinating when you see that women have beauty and the intimacy angle when it comes to getting men to helping them to survive. And when you're cooking, you're in the mix of it, it's very unexpected, right? You would think, oh, I want to finish this, I want to do that. As someone who cooks multiple times a day, desserts, appetizers, you name it, refreshments, teas, all that. You if someone does that, you're like, what? But it puts into perspective what's important. And you don't want your husband to fall into haram. This really puts a lot of mercy on the woman to realize you have a role. And that's an honorable role. And if you lose that, things change. Just like if a man becomes extremely broke and he's mean to you, he's never nice, you will change the way in which you feel towards him. When a woman is nasty, mean, cold, and rebellious and ungrateful, who would want to help take care of a woman like that? And the feminists will tell you, well, then just get a job or use the government. But that's not really sustainable because so many women want to be wives. And then you see them all over social media saying how tired they are, coming home from working 40 hours a week. They're too tired to play with their kids, and their brain is just fried, and they still have to work. Even sometimes when they get home, they don't really get to enjoy life, and they feel like they've been lied to. You see tons of these meltdown videos. And so they argue they don't have energy for intimacy because they're working. But if they become a stay-at-home wife, then they argue that they're lonely and they don't have enough mental stimulation and they're bored and don't want to give intimacy. So I have noticed this pattern of a lot of women making excuses about how they can't rein in their mental health and they just don't care how their husband feels. It's really all about them. And I have followed a lot of these feminists and how they will push women doing adult content for money and doing OF. But when it comes to women reminding other women to not neglect their husbands, that it's a religious honor, and some have argued it's an act of mercy, it's an act of worship. I've heard Mufti Mank say that having intimacy with your wife is an act of worship. They get really upset, and then they start to say very disgusting things about being a wife. And then they tell women not to get married, but to sleep around. So They glorify women sleeping around with men who have no responsibility over them, or for them, or to them, but then really get upset when a wife is told not to neglect her husband for months at a time. And I'm sure you have as well, you come across these screenshots of Reddit posts where pregnant women are catching their husbands watching adult content, or women are catching their husbands texting other women, and their hearts get broken, but then they also complain that their husbands stopped coming on to them, but that they also cut them off in the bedroom. And so Islam has the wisdom of reminding us that the key connection between a couple is intimacy. And what is further fascinating is when James Sexton was going his rounds on different podcasts, because I first watched him on the Soft White Underbelly, and he also mentioned how intimacy is a connecting force within a marriage, otherwise you're just roommates, and roommates don't really have the same rights, and that intimacy is the core component. And even if that person has a medical problem later on in your marriage, doesn't mean you get to cheat, but it just shows you how important it is. And if a woman develops a coldness towards her husband, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him the mercy of having other wives, so that he can still satisfy his needs in a halal way, and he's never really under the occultic magic of women. So when people like Toby Robinson say that women are not free, I think he just means freedom to do very occultic witchcraft to men. Because Islam cuts off the witchiness of a lot of bad women and calms them down and makes them more spiritual, makes them more pious, and makes them to see their role more clearly. And I think that that aligns more with the feminine nature, because there's a witchy feminine nature that is promoted by feminists and occultic women, where you use it to just destroy men and have them serve your lifestyle with giving as little as possible. So as little intimacy as possible, a little affection as possible, very limited acts of kindness, very little acts of loving gestures. It's all about use them and make sure you give as little as possible back, and you maximize them, milk them for everything they're worth. It's a very cutthroat way of looking at men. But here we see in Riyadh Salihin Volume 1 that we are reminded as women of our noble duties and how important men are for our spiritual and mental health. And there's another hadith here in the same volume. The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, "By him in whose hands is my life, when a man calls his wife to his bed and she does not respond, the one who is above the heaven becomes displeased with her until he, her husband, becomes pleased with her." Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So there's lawful reasons when a woman can have something, like I said, when you are feeling quite deranged because of the lack of sleep when you have a small child. But other than that, I really do think that you have to power through, and that you have to be more creative, and you need to find a way to have communication and work on things. But I have noticed the selfishness of some women where they will deny their men, not want him to have another wife, and looking at adult content is haram, but they then expect him never to look at it, and for him to also not, it's not lawful for them to touch their area with their hand, but then they expect them not to do that either. So I noticed that they want him to fully neglect his needs for the sake of her needs, because she, doesn't feel any type of mercy for him. And I find this to be quite strange. And when you're just had a baby and you hear something like this, your mood is very angry. But when you're rested, you're hydrated, you're fed, your health is on the rise, got your vitamins in order, get to shower, your mood becomes different. And then you see later this hadith. And I have noticed further, when women catch their husbands liking women's posts on Instagram of booty butts, they get this flash of jealousy, and then sometimes they actually start hugging on their husband more, caressing him more. They all of a sudden change because they realize that he can leave. And they don't want him to leave, and they were blind for a little bit and forgot about his needs and what could happen. And then they realize how much they actually love him. And they get a reminder. So if you look at these hadiths as a reminder, the occultic witchy woman, she doesn't really see men the same. They are a resource to be used and discarded. But in Islam, we don't really see men like that, in my opinion, because they're the caretakers of us. They have a responsibility towards us and us towards them. And it's good that we are not allowed to dominate the man, because that doesn't really make us happy. It doesn't really allow you to be truly feminine. You can have a spunkiness about you, a little spark, a little bit of cat clawing here and there to keep things spicy and not dull and dreary. But you're not excessively rebellious to the point where you become a mosquito in his ear. Right. So, I really hope that people can see Islam for what it's worth, because whenever someone says Islam oppresses women, it's usually just men wanting more hedonism. They want more breasts to look at. They want more mini skirts. And they are indulgent to their passions and don't have discipline. And so they see modest women as an affront to their ability to have content to touch themselves to later. They are so used to a buffet of women parading themselves that when a woman covers and rejects their gaze, they see it as an affront, and they become vitriolic and say that's not Western values. Therefore, proving my point, which is Western values of America today are lewdness, adultery, fornication, and whoredom. Because if it was really a Christian nation, the Christians would remember how Mary is depicted in art. She's fully robed. She's got no cleavage showing. She's not wearing booty shorts. She's not wearing yoga pants. Okay? She's not doing bathroom selfies and crop tops. Okay? And I really hope that you think about this hadith as well. Same volume. Salama, may Allah be pleased with her, reported, the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, any woman dies while her husband is pleased with her, she will enter Jannah. At-Tirmidhi. So think of that. This tells us as women, we want our husbands to be pleased with us. And the fastest way to please your man is food, lack of arguing, and intimacy. And good conduct. Also, having a little bit of a sense of humor helps, and not having excessive materialism, because he doesn't have to provide you with excessive luxury. He does not have to provide you with a Lambo. He doesn't have to provide you with the vast array of makeups and perfumes. Those are all optional. Remember that. Another one here. Muad bin Jabal, may Allah be pleased with him, reported, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, whenever a woman harms her husband in this world, that is, without any due right, his wife among the Huris in Jannah says, you must not harm him. May Allah destroy you. He is only a passing guest with you and is about to leave you to come to us. At-Tirmidhi. Now, another one here, Usama bin Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, reported, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, I am not leaving behind me a more harmful trial for men than women. So, women are a trial for men, so you also have to have mercy for when they slip up and make mistakes. Practicing forgiveness for when your husband makes a mistake is very noble. A feminist will tell you, secular liberal atheists will tell you, you have no right to shame women for being immodest, but you should totally not forgive your husband when he cheats on you with those immodest women we help to support and spread. So, they'll call you a pygmy if you stay with a man who slipped up in some way. But they'll call you a prude if you encourage women to be more modest so they don't tempt other people's husbands. So the secular liberal atheists, the feminists, they push women to dress as lewd as possible. They glorify female adultery in their writings. They romantic, like the Telegraph on Instagram, constantly is it's crappiest journalism, is promoting, female adultery consistently, and they romanticize it like, oh, I cheated on my husband, so then it made my intimate life with him better. Like, they make the most weirdest headlines, okay? And they don't look at how it hurt another woman, and they don't look at how it really hurts their mental health overall. And they will at the same time shame polygamy with consenting women and insult them for participating in polygamy, meaning the men, polygyny, the men can have multiple wives, and say that's abusive to women. But then they encourage women to sell access to their bodies if they want it. So no matter which way you look at it, it is secular liberal atheism that leads women to destroy themselves. It destroys the nuclear family and creates a terrible imbalance. And Islam helps you to get over your vicious jealousy as a woman. So Islam helps you become a better woman, because if you know he's gonna have Houris in Jannah, and they're gonna be a different type of creation, and they've been described with being very voluptuous, you need to humble yourself, and then he can have multiple wives on earth. You humble yourself. You realize your beauty, your allure, is not going to be used as bait when you go outside. You're going to cover yourself, so that helps keep your witchiness inside. The hadith about pleasing your husband so that he dies pleased with you. Then you see that it's a responsibility to make him happy. And then the prostrating hadith, you see that you are to show gratitude. And that when it comes to intimacy, you need to stop what you're doing and serve his needs. So you notice here, to show gratitude to him, to serve his needs. These are good, noble things that help keep marriages together. And a person who has a problem with that doesn't want to keep marriages together. Because all the things we see in this hadith, we see that's going to help keep the marriage viable, keep it healthy, keep it sustainable. Because each decade of marriage has its highs and lows, and you have to remember that you want him to be pleased with you. So this really puts into perspective what your role is. And so Islam helps women to become better women. That's my point. Islam helps women to realize that, hey, you know what, life isn't just all about me, I. Instead, it's also about, how can I help my husband? How can I show gratitude? Because remember the hadith that talks about there will be women in hell because they didn't show gratitude to their husbands. And when we prostrate, it's also like when we prostrate in prayer, I also think of it as a sense of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the bounty. And so gratitude is shown in many ways. And when someone makes a request and you grant it, that shows good behavior, shows mercy and manners. That you're not just always putting yourself at the center of everything. And Islam does put men at the center in a way, because they are what's going to help sustain you. Feminist tells women, put your kid in a daycare. They don't need you. A daycare person can do exactly what you do, and your kid will not miss you. And you're so replaceable that they won't even be traumatized by you not being around. So you have no value as a mom. Okay, a paid worker, they can do your job. You're not special at all. So they don't really value the role of a mother. What they value is status, competition. How many degrees can you get? How many promotions can you get? Whoops. Little Todd is playing. And how much can you take on in debt to achieve your goals? How ruthless can you be in your goals? That is what they value. But Islam does not tell women to value that. Rather, it tells us to be a guardian for his household, be a guardian for the children, and we are responsible for our actions, and we are not to be negligent in that. And that marriage is a wonderful goal that fulfills part of our deen, and it protects our private parts. It's fascinating when you look at it. Truly it is. And so, hopefully, people who have dark thoughts about Islam, they can rectify their affairs by actually seeing the soundness of our way. And again, a lot of liberal feminist women are very jaded. A lot of occultic women don't view men the same way as a Muslim woman should. So whenever somebody is saying Islam oppresses women, you must first ask them, what is the role of a woman? What's the role? What is it that they are to do in a marriage? Then you can really get at the gist. And then you can start drawing similarities and differences. It's really fascinating. And then I wish, truly, as well, I'll tell you, that someone should do some research about feministic marriages and religious Muslim marriages. Not liberal Muslims. I'm talking about like real orthodox, like get a man who married a really radical feminist. Then get a man who has 4 Muslim wives. Okay. And he lives in a compound. And let's say you get like a downtown New York City feminist couple. Really try to interview them on the dynamics of their marriage. You know, really see, you know, who's on the happiness scale and how different they are. And then you can really see what works and what doesn't. And who's really more fulfilled and at ease. Because Islam really helps you to see that it's simple to get into paradise if you apply. Well, none of us should assume we're getting in. But what I mean by simple is that there's things there that are easy to understand. Easy guideposts is my point. That you are able to navigate how to make a man happy. How to make a man pleased. We're told right here in these hadiths. Whereas the liberals will make it more obfuscated. They will make it more vague. And yet more perverted. So I have noticed further that they'll talk about kinks and why you have to allow certain parades to happen where there's kink on display in front of families and say that's normal. But they'll say it's wrong for a woman to always say yes to her husband. That she should just, you know, really keep him at the neediness, at the beggar bowl. And it's bizarre because you can see they don't really have sound reasoning and they flip-flop quite easily. Whereas we have a system here in the Sunnah, in the Quran and Sunnah. Women are not to be in charge of men. They're able to sway men for a while they have beauty. But in the reality is, women who really desire to make men these neutered, gelding puppets, they really discard them after a while. And then the phenomenon that flies right in the face of that is when women pick these bad boys who they can't control. So once those bad boys are not able to be held by these women, then they talk a lot about feelings and soft men because they think weak means safe. Islam doesn't tell men to be weak. Islam doesn't say weak men are safe. Rather, we're reminded that how we behave towards our men will show how they treat us. And that we are to really try to be peaceable, harmonious. And that's not oppressive. That's not oppressive. We have to protect each other's honor, and we have to think about each other's needs. And I think that's a wonderful thing. That Islam reminds women that there are needs that have to be served. Because a lot of women, they want to soothe something. That's part of the female nature, is wanting to soothe something, wanting to nurture something. We nurture our children, soothe your husband. You don't do that, and you're just a rage machine, bitter woman. You're not really spiritually at ease inside. And so those are the worst type of women to get marriage advice from. something to think about. In any case, let me know what you think, because I would be fascinated to see it. But I hope more women will focus on doing what they can to make their marriage life better. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the marriages and help everyone to get married, to stay married, and to be happy, and bless all the marriages, both monogamous and polygamous. Ameen.